Corner infield was the biggest area the Mariners addressed on their roster this offseason. So what will their work ultimately lead to on the diamond in 2026? We'll discuss coming up here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Wednesday, February 18th, 2026. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. My name is Dane Gonzalez, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Colby Patnode. We're two lifelong Mariners fans who've been covering the team for over half a decade, and today we're kicking off our 2026 season preview series with a look at the Mariners corner infield. So we'll talk about what Josh Naylor's first full season in Seattle could look like and how third base could turn out with Brendan Donovan and Colt Emerson. But we'll start with the $92.5 million man, which is Josh Naylor, signs a 5-year contract with the Mariners very early on into the offseason after being acquired from the Diamondbacks via trade near the trade deadline last summer. And since putting on a Seattle Mariners uniform, Josh Naylor went nuclear. 299, 341, 490 slash line. That's a 137 WRC plus. He stole 19 bags seemingly out of nowhere. The strikeouts went up a little bit from his time with the Diamondbacks, went up from 12.4% to 16.2%, but you really have to like that number. And that was all in 54 games. That doesn't include, of course, an incredible postseason run on top of that as well, where he stole even more bags and had a bunch of 3-hit games. It felt like every single game he had a 3-hit game. Put up 1.8 F4 in those 54 games, which that's exactly a third of an MLB season. So you times that by 3, that's a 5.4 F4 pace, which is a lot. That is actually double what his previous career high in F4 was leading into 2025. In 2023, he put up 2.7 F4 with the Guardians. So regression probably going to happen because that's just an insane pace that Josh Naylor was on. I guess the question, though, is, has he tapped into another gear, or should we expect that Naylor is going to be kind of the guy that we saw in, his years in Cleveland and that, first half of 2025 with Arizona?
Yeah. I mean, I think we should expect quite a bit of regression if we're just talking about what he did as a Mariner. I mean, what he did combined with Arizona and Seattle, could you do that again? Sure. I mean, I doubt he's going to steal 30 bags again, but I doubt he would have stolen 10. So, I mean, who's to say? But yeah, I mean, Naylor is a very good player. You're very happy to have him. I mean, nobody's complaining about the contract or anything like that, but is he a 5-win player? No. Most first basemen aren't. You pretty much have to get there entirely, with the bat. And most guys don't put up 5 wins of offensive value. It's just not the way WAR works. So, yeah, he's going to be less than he was last year. But could he do what he gave you last year, like stretched out over the course of 162? Yeah, probably a little bit more than that. So, it is what it is. Naylor's going to regress some. It's just going to happen. But he's a guy who hits T-Mobile Park. He's not going to strike out a ton. He certainly has the power to hit 30 home runs. I mean, he's done it before. And obviously T-Mobile Park is a good place for him to hit. But the thing with Naylor is he kind of has to choose. Like, are you going to try and hit bombs, or are you going to hit for average? Because the one year he did hit for bombs, the average tanked, and so there's kind of a we don't know who Josh Naylor is going to try to be with the Mariners. And, they lost a lot of power over this winter. Could Mariners go to him and be like, hey, we need you to hit some home runs. Like, we need you to focus on slug. Maybe. I mean, or could they just, hit your doubles, and then when you get that pitch that you can turn on it, just do what you did last year, or try to at least. So we'll see what avenue they go down, but I would expect some regression. I mean, just there has to be. But could the overall slash line look similar to what it did last year? Sure. I mean, again, he never really went through a slump with the Mariners. Not that I can recall. He had bad series. His first 3 playoff games weren't very good. And I know he struggled in his first 3 or 4 games in Sacramento, I think. Although I think he homered in game 2. But,
yeah,
he wasn't wasn't playing all that great. Then he got to T-Mobile Park and then just started raking and he just kind of carried it all the way through. So we haven't seen long slumps from Josh Naylor, and his approach, his style is one that should prevent him from having these 6 for 58 streaks or anything like that. But he's going to slump at some point. He's going to be bad for a couple of weeks. That's just how it is with all hitters. Certainly Josh Naylor isn't better than he's not better than Juan Soto, who also slumps at times. So yeah, he's going to regress some. But just in the 54 games last year, he really slumped for maybe 2 separate periods of 3 or 4 days, and that's it. So I think he's probably going to be a 2.5 win player, give or take. We'll see how the steals, if they can repeat themselves, and we'll see what kind of hitter Naylor is going to try to be, because if he starts, selling out for some power, which the Mariners might ask him to do, then obviously the slash line is going to go down a little bit. But I think you're looking for the player that Naylor was last year. He's going to be 20% above league average offensively. And if you get to 28, 30, 35% better, then that's great. And it doesn't really matter what form it takes. So yeah, the Mariners should feel very comfortable at first base. It's the most comfortable they have felt at first base. I mean, certainly it's an upgrade over where they started last year. Yeah, I think Naylor's going to regress, but I still think he'll be very good.
This is the second time he's done something like this. In 2025, he slashed 295, 353, 462. That's a 128 WRC plus. In 2023, he slashed 308, 354, 489. That's a 127 WRC plus. So we have seen him put up a pretty insane slash line in the past. So it's very possible, what he did in 2025 is not necessarily the outlier. Now, what he did with a Mariners uniform on, probably a bit of an outlier, because again, that's a 5.4 F4 pace. But could Josh Naylor easily be a 3.5 win player, maybe even put up another career high in F4 this year? It's possible. And maybe, T-Mobile Park, he's finally found his fit, ballpark wise.
Sure. I mean, again, a good chunk of that WAR, by the way, is also from the 57 stolen base pace that he was on when he joined the Mariners.
So that's going to be a big part of this, right? So is this now just part of his game? Again, he's possibly the second slowest runner in all of baseball, right? So it's hard to imagine that he's going to do something like this again, but he's such an incredibly smart runner. The way that he times up pitchers that's not really something that you can game plan against either.
No.
So I don't really see how teams can neutralize Naylor on the base pass, so long as he just continues to make those smart reads and what have you. So it's possible this is repeatable, and if that is the case, then I do think that he could exceed his career high in F4 again.
Yeah, I don't think it's very likely though. I mean, did Josh get caught stealing with the Mariners? I don't think he did. I think he was 19 for 19.
Yeah. No, he was caught twice with the Diamondbacks.
Right. So, I mean, to go 30 out of 32 as the second slowest runner in baseball. Again, being a good base stealer isn't necessarily about speed, but it sure does help, so Ricky Henderson's not the stolen base, all-time stolen base leader if he ran like Josh Naylor. I don't care how heady of a base runner you are. So yeah, we'll see if that translates.
And by repeatable, when I don't mean he's going to go steal 30 bags again this year, but I mean he'll steal more than 10, which was his career high before 2025. I think he can do that. I think stolen bases being part of his game, an actual real part of his game, is repeatable.
You can get value out of his base running, which is really something incredible to say, again, for the second slowest guy in baseball.
Yeah, we'll see if maybe the Mariners, we talked about this on a show a couple of weeks ago. We'll see if the Mariners go to him and they go hey, we need some more pop out of you. And maybe he tries to change up his approach a little bit for that. But I don't really think he needs to. I think Josh just needs to do what he's been doing, because that's the best version of Josh Naylor. 2024 is fun, when he's hitting 31 bombs and all that. That's cool. But the best version of Josh Naylor is pretty clearly what he did in 2025 and 2023. All right, so we're going to switch gears. We're going to talk about the opposite side of the diamond. Talk about third base, Brendan Donovan, Colt Emerson. Go over those guys in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Indeed. Hiring isn't just about finding someone willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed Sponsored Jobs is the move. Because instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria like skills, certifications, and location. If I were hiring, I wouldn't just want someone who can help. I'd want someone with real experience who can jump right in. That's what I like about Indeed. You can get specific and target exactly what you need. It saves time because you're spending less energy sorting through mismatches. And with sponsored jobs, your post gets seen by candidates who are actually a fit. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring. Do it the right way with Indeed. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen for all things Mariners. And also thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Mariners with no interruptions, members only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonmariners.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. And in the description, you can also find the link to our Mariners fan survey that we're currently conducting. Only a couple more days left for you to participate in that. It will close up on Friday morning. But if you haven't participated already, we'd love for you to do so. All you have to do is click the link, answer a few questions. That's it. You don't have to sign up for anything. We just want to know how you feel about the Mariners going into 2026, and then we'll react to the results of that survey on a future episode of Locked On Mariners. So again, if you haven't participated yet, please do so. All you have to do is click the link in the description of this episode, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening to it on your preferred podcast platform. All right, so let's talk about Brendan Donovan, Colby. Something that we totally haven't done all offseason long. I don't think I've said this guy's name once this offseason.
I know.
Right?
Who is he?
Yeah. He's this guy that the Mariners acquired from the St. Louis Cardinals. I don't know if you've ever heard of that team, or Chaim Bloom, their GM, president of baseball operator, whatever he is.
Is that the guy who got that great deal from Mookie Betts?
Yeah. Yes. That is the one. That is the one. Yeah. Yeah.
Man,
Such
I can't
a good
believe
deal.
St. Louis must have had to trade like everything to get him to leave Boston. In a way, they kind of did.
Yeah. Anyway, Brendan Donovan, he's finally here. He's finally a Mariner. Talked about him all off season long. Talked about him quite a bit after the trade was made, obviously. Looks like for now he's going to play third base for the Mariners, so that's why he's in our corner infield preview. Slash 287, 353, 422 last year with Cardinals. It's 119 WRC plus. That's pretty much in line with what his career norms have been. 2.9 F4. Only played 118 games, so it's a possibility for a lot more there.
That guy must have cost you Ryan Sloan or Kate Anderson. Am I right?
Probably Brian Wu, if we're being honest.
I mean, at the very least, it cost Senja and Laz.
I got some news for you. 13% K rate, 8.2% walk rate. This is a guy that has said as recent as a couple days ago, I don't like striking out. And very clearly he does not. The numbers very much tell you that. Yeah. Something that we haven't really talked about with Donovan. Also, this is another really good clubhouse guy. This is, in a way, it's kind of like adding a second Josh Naylor to your clubhouse. Just highly competitive, constantly works on his craft, leads by example, all that good stuff. And that's obviously stuff the Mariners really care about, the Mariner way, essentially, even though they don't really call it that, but that's kind of what it ultimately is. Right. So yeah, Donovan, I mean, I feel pretty good about what the Mariners are getting in this guy. I feel like he's going to hit, about 280. He's going to get on base at a 340, 350 clip because that's what he's always done. He's going to slug a little bit over 400 because that's just what he's always done.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he better. You had to give up Ryan Sloan to get him. But yeah, it's what a ridiculous
And Brian
thing
Wu
to say.
and Kate
Ridiculous
Anderson.
thing to say. Can we all stop looking at that account now forever? Anyways,
but we'll settle for Bryce Miller.
Yeah. I guess if we have to, we'll take Bryce Miller. 4 years of Bryce Miller for 2 years of this guy. Early reports out of camp are that he has massive forearms. That's according to Ryan Divish.
Nice.
Said bigger than Ty Francis, which I don't remember Ty having massive forearms, but whatever.
I kind of do. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, I mean, he's definitely going to fit. Honestly, it's not too dissimilar of a profile from Josh Naylor. Josh certainly has more pop, more home run power, and obviously more slug than Donovan, but Donovan's, better athlete, although not as good of a base stealer. So kind of a weird little mix there the Mariners have on their corner. Well below average power at third base, I would say, and fringe average power at first base. So it'll be interesting to see where the Mariners make up for that, and we'll talk about that, throughout the week. But yeah, Donovan's probably going to make a lot of contact. He's probably going to draw a fair amount of walks and probably hit some doubles, and the occasional pull side home run. Like, he is just a really solid hitter. Again, he's basically for the last 4 years been a walking, talking, 119 WRC plus guy. Like, that is right in line with his norms. And, he was almost a 3-win player last year in about 2/3 of a season. So could he be a 4-win player? And if he plays 155 games, sure. I mean, that's possible, but I think more than likely he's, solid 3-win player like he has been for most of his career. And the ceiling on what he can do probably comes from how quickly he picks up third base, which is not his natural position. He's played there some, but not a ton. He's played a lot more at second base, and he's played more in the outfield than he has at third base. Really good second baseman, above average second baseman. Third base, we'll see. We just don't have enough, data. It's certainly not going to be an arm strength problem with him. He's got a very strong arm. It's just kind of the nuances of playing third. When do I charge? When do I lay back? When do I barehand the ball? When do I pick it up with my glove? Bunts and all that stuff. The little details of playing third base. Certainly much more likely to pick it up than Jorge Polanco was last year, which we know the Mariners tried for about, 25 innings. And we're like, nope, not going to happen. But Donovan should pick it up fine. I don't think he's going to win any gold gloves over there, but I can't imagine he's a significant drop off defensively from Gino, who the metrics
might be an upgrade.
Yeah. I mean, the metrics don't love Gino, but like I've watched Gino play for a lot of years over at third base. He's fine. He's totally fine. And I think Donovan will at least be that. So certainly a better athlete than Gino right now. A little twitchier.
Sure.
I guess it's just the easier way. Just, we'll see. Gino has the experience. Donovan has a little bit of athleticism on him. So we'll see, ultimately. I think the defense is going to be.
It's also like, 6 years younger than Gino?
Yeah, and that's why he's twitchier, little less wear and tear on the old body there. So, I think Donovan will be ultimately, at the very least, at the worst, he will be as good as Gino defensively. Certainly has the potential to be better. And then it comes down to like, how long does he stay at that position? Because obviously there's another guy who's, knocking on heaven's door, heaven being the big leagues, not actual heaven. He might push him off that position. So it's kind of tough to say, for now we're putting Donovan here, but there's a chance we should be talking about Donovan as a middle infielder or maybe even an outfielder. We just don't know. And that's, again, part of the reason why the Mariners wanted this guy so badly, is that they could screw with us and be like, oh, where are they going to put him in their position previews? Thanks,
right.
Mariners.
Exactly.
That's why he did it.
That's exactly why they did it. Yeah, but of course, like we talked about, Donovan can play a lot of different spots, and that'll happen at some point this season, whether Colt Emerson makes the club out of spring training or not, because Colt Emerson's going to get a shot so long as he stays healthy. So at some point, Donovan's going to play a little second. He's going to play some left field. He'll probably DH. He might even play some right field. We'll see. But we'll see him all over the place. But for now, the plan is for him to start the year at third base, but that's kind of assuming that Colt Emerson's not going to make the club, which, again, that could happen. So we'll see, and we'll talk about him in a little bit. But yeah, Donovan, again, I just kind of feel like I know what I'm going to get out of him so long as he stays on the field. His career slash line 282, 361, 411. That's a 119 WRC plus. It's not really going to be any pop. At the very least, it's going to be doubles over homers. He does hit a fair amount of doubles, 32 last year, 34 the year before that. That's solid, and again, he's just the best part about Donovan's addition to me is that he gives you a true leadoff option against right-handed pitching. He's going to set the table very well for Cal, for Julio, and especially when you have JP as the page turner in the 9-hole, like him and Donovan going back to back. I think that's going to do wonders for Cal and for Julio. And we'll talk about those guys, in their own separate season preview. And that's going to be part of, what we talk about with them as well, as like the help that they have around them now. Donovan's a big part of that. Donovan's really, truly a key piece to all of this for this club in 2026. It's very easy to see why he was such an important part of the Mariners offseason and why they zeroed in on him, and why, while I don't like the process of them essentially painting themselves into the corner of having to land him, it's easy to understand why they were like, we have to get out of the offseason with Brendan Donovan specifically. Yeah,
they got it done. Donovan is just like a lot of Mariners players, 2.5, 3-win guy, and I know that doesn't sound exciting, but if you had a 26-man roster of nothing but 2-win guys, you would win 95 games.
And when you have 2 stars on your team as well, with Cal and with Julio, that's all you really need is just solid guys like Brendan Donovan to build around them.
Brendan Donovan and Josh Naylor.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair value.
All right, we will talk about Colt Emerson and then a couple of guys that the Mariners have invited to spring training in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? Then I have great news for you. FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. All you have to do is use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. I'm talking flights, tickets, the whole experience. So if you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in, because now not only can you pick cash, but it can also send you to the NBA Finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, we have a Patreon. It's called Control the Zone, and on there we talk Mariners, Seahawks, all that good stuff. For more information, go to patreon.com/Control the Zone. Link in the description of this episode. So as we wrap up our corner infield preview, we're going to talk about another guy we talked a lot about this offseason. That's Colt Emerson, the Mariners' top prospect in their farm system. He's going to get an opportunity to make the club out of big league camp. Now, is it as great of an opportunity as he had a couple of weeks ago before the Brendan Donovan trade happened? Probably not, but he's still going to get an opportunity to make the club, I think. We've talked about that a lot. We've also talked a lot about how, you shouldn't bank on this guy for anything because he's 20 years old, right? It's very possible that he comes up, struggles because he's 20 years old facing the best pitching in the entire world. And, it might take a little while for him to actually get his major league legs under him. It's also possible that he could pop, right? And he could be a real rookie of the year candidate. And at that point, sky's the limit for the Seattle Mariners as a ball club as a whole, really. We haven't really talked about what the middle ground is, though, for Colt Emerson. Like, what's a reasonable year for Colt Emerson that isn't just he's not part of this thing or he's the best rookie in the league?
Yeah, statistically, what's most reasonable is that he does what Cole Young did last year, which was really good for about half the time he was up and really bad for about half the time he was up. And that's just what happens with talented baseball players who are still very young, and Cole Young is very young, and he had more time in the high minors than Colt Emerson even. So it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, what's realistic to expect out of a guy? even one as talented as Colt Emerson, I think reasonable expectation is he survives at the big league level, and he's about a 100 WRC plus guy, and he helps you out that way with some, some maybe high peaks that last a little while, but some low valleys that also last a little while. I think that's what's reasonable to expect here. Because again, he is very talented, and you can't talk about Colt Emerson with anybody without them immediately talking about like his not only his advanced approach at the plate, but also just like his maturity level. Like he's a 20-year-old who acts like a 10-year veteran in the big leagues.
The work ethic, all that. Yeah.
Right. And he's very, assured of himself. He's not worried about, having to live up to the pressures of anything like Jared Kelenic was. He's very comfortable with who he is and where he's at. And that's something that, not a lot of 20-year-olds possess, particularly 20-year-old professional athletes who have been the best player on their team pretty much their entire lives, and so he doesn't feel like there's much of a chance here that he crashes out mentally, over any of this, whether he makes the team or not, or any of that. So it's just going to be about, how quickly does he figure it out, and how quickly does the league figure him out? So when you're talking about what's reasonable to expect, what is between a rookie of the year candidate and Jared Kelenic, I mean, it's pretty much Cole Young. Cole Young splits the middle pretty well, and that's what you would expect from a 21-year-old getting his first taste of big league pitching. A lot of failure, some successes combined, about a league average player. So I think that's fair to expect from a guy as talented with the mental fortitude of Colt Emerson, is to say like this guy can be a contributing big leaguer right away as a rookie. And I think that's a fair expectation level to place.
Yeah, and deal with the peaks and the valleys of, again, like you said, being a 20-year-old in Major League Baseball and facing, again, the best pitching in the world, right?
This is why you don't want 2 or 3 of these guys on your roster at the same time, though.
Yeah.
Right. This is why Ty and I were talking about don't have Emerson at third and Cole Young at second. That's not going to work. You have to, you can survive one of these guys who going through their peaks and their valleys and kind of learning the game. Sure, you could do that. And even for a short time, you could survive 2 of them. But if that's what you're going with in the first half, you're in trouble. Thankfully, because of Brendan Donovan, the Mariners don't have to do that. And even if Emerson does make the opening day roster, right, and Cole Young, who we'll talk about in a later episode, I don't see how that happens. But even if they do, right, like they can send one down and they have a perfectly good, fringe all-star level player to replace him. And that's the whole point that we spent the offseason hammering home about why a guy like Donovan was so important. You have to have an escape hatch. And if Emerson forces your hand and he's on the big league roster, great. That probably means really good things. If he doesn't, it's not the end of the world. You're still in good shape and you're still, very high on this player. So a lot of pressure got taken off of the Mariners in general. I don't know if any pressure got taken off Colt Emerson, because I don't know if he actually felt any pressure. It doesn't seem like he did, just based on what you hear about him. So, but yeah, certainly the Mariners have a lot less pressure to push this guy to the big leagues. And, I imagine that he'll probably start the year in AAA, but we'll see. He will still have an opportunity to make the opening day roster. It just might not be at third base. It might be he's battling Cole Young for a roster spot. And I don't know, maybe Colt plays second, probably third, and you just moved Donovan back to second. But
yeah, that's
we'll
what
see
I
how
would
it
assume.
goes. Right. But we'll see how it goes. But we're going to see him at some point this year. And I think your expectation should be measured. He's not Julio Rodriguez. Julio is a completely different, universe in terms of what his ceiling is compared to Colt Emerson. So, we'll see how it goes, but I think reasonable expectation is say like, hey, this guy could be an average big leaguer right now, and we'll build from that. And I think that would be a really successful year for him too.
So the Mariners invited a couple of guys to spring training that have some, legitimately productive major league seasons in their past. Patrick Wisdom, one of those guys. He was obviously in camp in 2020 with the Mariners. Didn't play with them, of course. But he put up a 2.3 F4 season in 2021 with the Cubs, hit 28 homers that year, put up a 1.2 F4 season in 2023, or in 2022, rather, with 25 home runs. And then Connor Joe is the other guy that they brought in. But let's talk about Wisdom first. Well, let's talk about both of these guys, really. Like, is there any shot that these guys could compete with Leo Rivas for a spot on the roster out of camp?
No.
Yeah.
No, they're not first. Both of them are really first base only.
Yeah.
Joe can play some outfield, but you don't really want him to. Wisdom can play some third base, but I don't think you really want him to. Wisdom strikes out a ton. He's a right-handed hitter. And Joe is also a right-handed hitter who, he had 1 year where he played pretty regularly and he was really good. And the other year he played pretty regularly. He was okay. So they're interesting roster depth. It's very similar to the Rowdy Tellez and Donovan Solano thing, where it's like, hey, both of these guys should probably only play first base. Definitely, Rowdy definitely can only play first base, but Solano's like, yeah, he could play some third if you need him to. And that's kind of what Wisdom is. Joe also can play a little bit of the outfield, but it's basically that same idea. Let's get a couple veterans in here. So we get, a couple injuries crop up or over the spring or what have you. We have these veterans who can come in and contribute something, at least give us an at bat, or some kind of presence to them. And I think it's like that. Only you give those guys minor league deals instead of the major league deal you gave to Solano. But no, I don't. Unlike last year where it was like, the path to Rowdy Tellez making the roster was DFA Mitch Haniger, which we didn't think they would be willing to do, and then they did, and then the fit made a little bit of sense. This year, there's just not that guy. Like the bench, Rivas can play multiple positions, including up the middle, and neither of these guys can do that. And so, also, Rivas has been a better major leaguer than both of these guys for a little while now.
Yeah.
So, no, I don't see any path to them making the opening day roster. I think they're just org depth. They're filler. They're going to go down to Tacoma, hopefully. I mean, they probably have opt-outs at the end of spring, but maybe you can send them down to Tacoma and there's a veteran presence for what's probably going to be, a minor league team that has, Colt Emerson on it. And you have a couple of these veterans who, understand they're different hitters. Joe's more of a contact oriented guy. Wisdom is power or bust, but there's nothing wrong with having those guys in your system because they provide some useful depth. If things, if you need a guy for a couple weeks, and they also provide some, some insight and some wisdom and I mean, wisdom,
literally,
yeah. Wisdom literally has played in multiple leagues. He's played in the majors. He's played overseas. Like he's been a career minor leaguer.
He just came over from the KBO. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, there's a lot to glean, and there's a lot that you can learn from these players just from their experiences. And so they're worth having. And again, if Naylor has a stiff neck and he needs to go on the 10-day IL, well, who's going to be your first baseman before you signed Wisdom?
Yeah, Wisdom, you can put him at third.
Sure.
I don't know how well he can play it. To be fair, I haven't seen him play third base, so I don't know how bad it is or if he's actually like decent there. I could not tell you. And then Joe, like I mentioned, he's also had a couple of legit productive seasons in the majors. Put up about put up 0.9 F4 in 63 games with the Rockies in 2021, put up 1.4 F4 in 133 games with the Pirates. So, there's some major league success with both of these guys.
Yeah. Both of them are also kind of hedges on Ref Snyder.
Yeah.
A little bit because they're both, corner guys who hit right-handed. And again, Wisdom's got the power. So if that's something you feel like you need, you can call him up. If you feel like you just need some, more professional hitting. That sounds condescending to Wisdom, but a little more contact, more line drive oriented approach.
Patrick Wisdom has a 40% strikeout rate season in his bag. So,
so it's good solid depth to have. Nothing wrong with it. And the Mariners didn't have that much depth, naturally in their organization with young players. They traded Locklear, for example. Just fill out the minor league roster a little bit and have some guys who have had some major league success in your back pocket, just in case you need them for a couple weeks. It's what good teams do.
All right, well, that's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And once again, if you never miss an episode, it's time to make it official. Join the Locked On Everydayer Club and get ad-free audio, access to our members-only Discord, and more, all built for our most loyal fans. For Colby Patnode, I'm Dane Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. You can also find us on Instagram at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.